Hi, I'm Arlene McIntyre, Creative Director at Ventura Design, and you're listening to Shut the Front Door, a light-hearted podcast that will bring you through the front door and into the homes of influential and interesting people. Home for me is one of the most important things in my life. My career has fortunately given me the opportunity to work closely with people and to help them create a home they will cherish forever. Today we are joined by Pat Pearson, a seasoned speaker, business professional, psychotherapist, and business builder for over 30 years. We are delighted to speak to Pat today as she will share with us how we can make psychological home improvements during this time. Pat is the author of 4 books, including the best-selling Stop Self-Sabotage, that focuses on how we can be sabotaging our own success without even realizing it. She is a motivational speaker for industry giants such as IBM, American Airlines, Travel Insurance, and Century 21. Originally from Dallas in the US, Pat lives part-time in Ireland and in California. Throughout the US, she's a regular on national, local, and regional media when called upon as the expert resource with important principles to help stop self-sabotage. She recently appeared on Access Hollywood, CNN Radio, Fox Business, and ABC to provide messages on topics to help people to achieve their goals, dreams, and expand on their visions. Welcome to Shut the Front Door today, Pat. Pat, thank you very much for joining me today on Shut the Front Door. How are you?
I'm fine, Arlene. It's my pleasure to be on this great podcast. Thank you so much.
Well, how have yourself and Jim been managing during the lockdown?
Well, you know what? I think it depends on the day, to be honest. I think that the lockdown and this whole immediate throwing into this crisis mode. We went from, planning to go out with friends to being, storing up toilet paper because we were afraid. So I think that throws everyone into a grief cycle. And I think that in that position, you go through many stages. One is sadness, one is kind of depression, one is anger. Like, get me out of here. So it depends on the day, to be really honest. And if it's sunny in lovely Ireland, we feel better. If it's rainy and cold, it's a little harder. Mm-hmm. So it's an emotional roller coaster.
Yeah, it is. And it has been for so many across the board. You once mentioned to me, Pat, that getting your home into its best mental shape was very important. And I loved that. Can you share some of your advice with me today?
Yes, indeed. Well, I believe, we all believe this, that, you say home is where the heart is. And it's so true. And now that we've been in our home, been quarantined in our home for a while, different things start to happen psychologically. So psychological home improvement is basically, how do I improve my heart in my home? And to be wholehearted in our love for our home, and to feel some gratitude about where we are and how we're managing and all those different things. So I think, first of all, you have to, if you take care of your heart, if your heart is in your home, and, as we said, you have to take care of your feelings. Mm-hmm. And really the challenge for many of us in this era of uncertainty and anxiety and fear-based thinking. So we got to take care of our feelings. And I do have a couple tips, being a psychotherapist, on how to deal with feelings and your mental health. And they are, number one, you have to be able to feel whatever you're feeling. You have to not contradict it, not say it's bad or wrong or horrible, or I should, get out of it. So we've got to allow ourselves to accept our feelings, whatever they are, even when you're angry, even when it's not happy, even when it's upsetting. So that's number one. We need to feel. And number two, it's the trilogy is feel, deal, and heal. Feel, deal, and heal. It's a little mnemonic that's easy to remember. The feeling part is, as I said, it has to do with accepting your feelings, whatever they are, not judging, not putting yourself down, not being self-critical. Tough, I know, but important.
Mm-hmm.
Next step is deal. And deal, Arlene, has to do with dealing with your feelings, with talking about them, with being able to accept what they are, and then to understand that you're not bad or wrong if you're being critical of your home or yourself, or you're, if you're upset with your mate or whatever it is. That we deal with it, and we deal with it by expression. So you have to express it. Now, I don't mean, it can be in all kinds of ways. You can call your best friend. You can, you can call a therapist. You can scream in your shower. Doesn't matter. You can write it out in journaling. A lot of people like to do that with their feelings and dealing with them. So we have to deal with them. You can't expect whatever feeling you're having, if you don't like it, to move through you without dealing with it. Mm. Don't deal. All you're doing is going into denial, and you're pushing it down. And there's a great psychological phrase, Arlene, I love. It's called, the only way out is through. Mm-hmm. The way out of a feeling that you're having is to go through it, not to avoid it, not to deny it, not to pretend it's not there. And the last one is heal. And heal means release the feeling. Once you've dealt with it, once you've talked it through, once you feel like you've gotten it out, that you're angry or upset that, something isn't going right in your home, then you have to release it. You have to, and be done with it. And what I mean by being done is that you fully express it, and then you don't have to revisit it 30 times, and you accept yourself. You accept that maybe, we're talking about home improvement, psychological home improvement, but also, I don't know if people are like me, but when I'm at home a lot, I tend to find what I haven't finished, what I haven't done, I tend to see all the stuff that needs to be, focused on. And I can get self-critical about that. Like, why haven't you done that? Why don't you clean this? Why don't you get this in better order? Why don't you blah, 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 blah.
It's so true. And you once mentioned that the importance of not being so self-critical around what you have or you haven't achieved in home, even down to decorating or cleaning.
Yes. Now, I happen to have a home that's been done by Ventura, so I'm very happy with the decorating. So I appreciate you and love what I look at. Mm-hmm. Cleaning is a whole other thing. Yeah. And that's up to me, and I don't have the best track record there. So anyway, but it's taking charge of these thoughts and focusing in our home on what we love. I have flowers out on my. I'm in an apartment, and we have a long balcony, and we've filled it all with geraniums. And so every morning I get up and I look at the blue, the pinks and the reds and the whites, and I just go, this is lovely, And God bless geraniums. I mean, nothing can hurt them. They live anywhere.
I know. They would survive a nuclear bomb. They're incredible. They just keep going.
And then I look at my beautifully, furnished house and my apartment, and I feel grateful. So that's one of the keys, Arlene, to loving your home, is instead of focusing on what's wrong, focus on what's right. What do you love? And one of the real things to ask yourself, if you're, struggling and having a bad day, as we all do, and we all will, is, what are the 3 things I'm grateful for? And that could be anything. But if we're talking about home, as we are, what are we grateful for in our home? I mean, how does it feel to get in our nice bed? How does it feel to look at the beautiful pictures on the wall? What are you grateful for that you're around all the time? Now, that's the decorating side. Then there's a psychological side. What are you grateful for from the people in your home and yourself? To be kind to yourself, to give yourself some attagirls, attaboy. I'm told this is a very American thing, to to want to give yourself a pat on the back. But I don't know about you, but it's certainly helped me in times when I'm feeling bad to
I know exactly what you're talking about, and my mom would often have said that to me exactly. Give yourself a pat on the back. Maybe you don't feel like you've achieved a lot today, but if you really look closely at it, you probably have. And give yourself a pat on the back. And she's always said this to me since I was small.
Yeah. Well, it's a good trait. And
Mm.
another way is pivot from the negative to the positive. And we have a choice. See, there's the thing that we all have to understand. If you're really doing psychological home improvement, you have to take responsibility for the thoughts that you are running through your mind. If indeed your thoughts are all negative, it's like eating horrible food. You're going to feel sick. It's going to make you feel bad. So but we all get caught in some negative thoughts, of course. I mean, research shows, I hate to say it, that 77% of what we think about is negative. So
Yeah.
that's before a pandemic. So throw a pandemic on top of that statistic.
My goodness. And why is that? Why are our brains wired that way, that we just think negatively before positively? Like, you'll often hear a person asking an opinion. Say if you're in a dressing room trying on a new dress in a clothing store, and you'll ask two sales assistants, how do I look in this dress? One will say, it's fabulous, I love it, you've got to buy it. And the other lady will say, no, I'm not sure. We're kind of all inclined to listen to the no, I'm not sure.
Exactly.
Why is that?
Well, it's part of it is just training, and when we grew up, once again, statistically, I'm not, this is in my book, so I can't remember it exactly, but I think we had like 140,000 no's. Somehow they track this in people growing up. No, you can't do that. No, you can't have that. No, you shouldn't think that. I remember my father used to say to me, your eyes are bigger than your stomach, which I never quite understood, but it all came down to no, you can't have that. No, it's okay. So we heard, 147,000, something like that, no's against 20,000 yeses. So the programming that we heard was so substantially no. Now, when you're raising kids, as you well know, or you will know, you have to set some boundaries and you have to say no. However, there's ways of doing that don't stifle their vision and their creativity and their belief that they deserve something in life. So I think it's training. I think it's what we're brought up with. And like anything, it becomes habit. And that habit gets engraved in your brain. I mean, literally, brain studies have shown that it's engraved in your frontal cortex. And so you have to intentionally change it. Now, here's the good news. There are very simple ways to change it. Very simple ways. Okay. And you're going to say, well, how? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, number one, you have to notice that you're going negative. You have to notice it. And some people, it's so rote that they never notice. But you got to notice. And you got to feel like, okay, now that doesn't really help me. That isn't getting me anything. So first you notice, and then you pivot. And when I say pivot, I mean intentionally you change your focus. So you have to notice and you have to refocus. And the new focus is on how I can positively move myself forward, right? There are three steps. Number one, inside of you, you learn to say, I choose. I choose to notice the beauty in my home today. I choose to feel grateful for everything I've done or achieved today. Or I feel grateful for my lovely surroundings. I choose. So first of all, you have to say, I choose. Not I will, or I am, or I might do it in the future if things get better. But right now, you own the responsibility and the power of choice. I choose. I choose Number one, okay, you're going to make a statement about what you want to feel good about. Then you have to believe your statement. Okay, you can't say something you don't believe, because inside of you, there's a part of you that will remind you that you don't believe it. Nah, you don't believe that, Arlene. Come on.
Mm-hmm.
You're just, you're making that up. It's just, so you're not doing it for anyone else. You're doing it for your own personal home improvement inside. You have to believe it. And number three, it has to feel good. When you see it has to feel good to you. Those are the 3 steps. 3 steps to mental health.
That is really interesting. And Pat, just on the sideline, we've been meeting, I've been meeting a lot of different personality types throughout, that I've been chatting with through the lockdown. And it seems to just be divided into 2 personality types. You've got one who's the go-getter that's consistently has worked throughout the entire lockdown and is managing the situation really well and is seeing the glass half full. And then the other type of personality I've met has been seeing everything about the glass half empty and hasn't been able to consistently, if you like, work or cope very well through the lockdown. Why do you think that is?
I think it's what they're paying attention to. I think we just talked about,
Yeah.
If you predict a negative outcome, okay, if you and I sat here and we said, oh my gosh, our businesses are going to crash. They're never going to come back. It's going to be horrible. We're going to lose our homes. We're going to lose this. We're going to lose that. They're going to feel pretty bad. But that is a prediction. And we do this all the time. We're all psychics. We all predict the future. In some kind of, but we either predict it positively or negatively.
Yes.
So if I sit here and I say it's doom and gloom and it's going nowhere and it's going to be worse than I could ever have imagined, I'm going to feel pretty bad. And I'm not going to only have negative thoughts. My body's going to feel bad. I'm not going to want to exercise. I'm going to want to drink more. I'm going to go for the sugar, all that kind of stuff. Okay. Mm-hmm. If, on the other hand, I predict a positive outcome, I'm going to come out of this. We're going to come out of this. Maybe we'll learn some things that are going to help us. This time is a time for reflection and recalibrating what's important. And truly, Arlene, nothing's more important than your family and your home. Nothing. Your health, of course. But your home is, as I said, where your heart is. And all of us have to protect our hearts because that's what helps us survive.
Yeah, that's lovely. And it is a choice. So you have a choice to kind of suck in the positive out of the news or take in the negative. So it's really your choice, what you want to tune into.
Well, it's and that, and it's also a choice of and here's the good news. The good news is if you've been making the choices that haven't helped you or have made you feel bad, then there's no better time than the present to change. Pivot. Learn to focus on what you want. Give yourself permission to have it and start talking to yourself positively about that. Mm-hmm. You're going to feel a lot better.
So it's a choice. Yeah, and you have to work on it. And would it be fair to say that some people are better at making those choices than others?
I think some people are better, but let me just be totally transparent. I flew over here to be with my partner who's sick. Okay. And we immediately went into lockdown, and we're still in lockdown essentially. And I have days, and I teach this stuff where I'm just, I'm going for the glass of wine. I'm going for the cake. I'm going for, anything that gives me a sense of lift.
Mm-hmm. Comfort.
Yes, of course I know better. I've done this for over 30 years. However, I am human. So
yeah, I know.
I forgive myself. It's okay.
Well, that's great. And I think a lot of people that might be seeing the half glass full would love to hear that coming from you, because people shouldn't beat themselves up about it. It can happen to the best of us.
Absolutely.
I don't know if you've seen, Pat, on the news about the Coronaphobia. They've now actually given it a title. And it's basically people who are suffering from a lot of anxiety and, not coping with the stresses of all of this lockdown very well. And, fear, worry, all those things are just,
I'm sure everything that we have inside of us gets magnified in this time, you know. So if you have some tendencies towards anxiety, you're going to have more. Some tendencies to depression, you're going to have more. If you have tendencies to anger, you're going to have more. Look at the domestic violence statistics.
I know.
Yeah.
Terrible, 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 terrible.
So it's just understanding.
Yeah.
And I want to give another example. I have a dear friend of mine, and he was the MD to the astronauts at NASA in the United States, and he trained the astronauts. And there is nobody who was more focused on perfection and performance than astronauts. They've got to be, they've got to be a 10 in physicality. They've got to be a 10 in mental health. They've got to be able to stand and withstand stress and unexpected events. If you're in the space shuttle and spaceship, right? Mm-hmm. What he said, and he's done a talk for me on stress on my podcast, and he said that what happens, even with the best of the best, is that you hit a stress and you adapt. Okay, you handle it. Okay, something happens, you handle it. Then you hit another stress and you adapt, and you adapt, and you adapt. Mm-hmm. Some point, you run out of ability to adapt. Everybody. And at that point, you plummet precipitously. It's like going over a cliff, even with the astronauts. So it's learning how to mitigate and manage the stresses, the small ones, so they don't go to medium size, so that they don't go to big, so that they don't go to catastrophic. Mm-hmm. And that's where intervention, we've been talking about, on how you think, how you deal with your feelings, are there. Those are your two best mental health home improvement skills.
Mm-hmm. And you can just bring those tools with you everywhere. That could be in the workplace. That could be really anywhere where you spend a lot of time.
And it should be. Yes. Yeah. Same thing. It's the same thing. Absolutely. And then the kind of cherry on top, if you're really feeling bad, is go into gratitude. You can't have two thoughts at one time. Okay? Your brain doesn't work that way. Mm. So if I'm thinking about my lovely, home and my gorgeous decorations and how I love my bed, then I can't be thinking of, oh my gosh, I just put on 5 pounds. Oh my gosh, I didn't clean the toilet. Oh my gosh, why haven't I changed the wallpaper? So going to gratitude not only makes you feel better, it gives you more energy.
Yeah.
And that energy you can use to get yourself the next step of handling the stress and the next step. So we can all do that. Take a moment right now, think of something you're grateful for.
That's so true. So just distract your brain, like just train your brain to just think about positives in a negative situation.
Well, pivot. Yeah.
Pivot. Yeah. The pivot's the word.
Pivot's the word. It's a choice. It's yes, in some sense it's a distraction, but I would talk about it as a more positive choice, and it keeps you in charge. See, the thing that happens with negativity is that once you get in it, it's like a roaring stream. Started out nice and pretty, but then you hit the rapids, and now you're over a cliff. So it has its own momentum, mm-hmm. and it carries you with it. So there has to be a way, and there is a way, we've been talking about it, of how to stop it and pivot and get to shore and get back to whatever, to play with my analogy here.
Yeah, for sure. I love that. And how to help someone if you know someone that's probably going through this sort of chronophobia, just to help steady them because they can almost become derailed by the whole, I guess, the thought process that they're going through. And you can see them going through this and it doesn't, they don't have to go down that road or that path of thinking.
Yes. Well, and the most loving thing to do is to support them. And that's
Yeah.
one of the things we need at this juncture. One of the things we need to be compassionate to ourselves and love our hearts is not only self compassion, but compassion for others. That this is a time that nobody has been trained to handle. Nobody. And everyone, including me, including you, is going to have some level of anxiety about it. And
Mm-hmm.
how much and how much and how equipped are we to deal with it? Um, so you're what you can do for your friends is support them and then challenge them to find resources to help them deal with it. Purpose, that could be a book, that could be just mental health. I don't know, a lot of things. Talking to their friends more, whatever. Medication if they're really in trouble.
Mm.
So, these are the things we can do.
That's so true. Two people are just not the same. Everything kind of goes down that negative half, glass half empty kind of way of thinking. So I guess just as you have advised, Pat, we do need to be compassionate and help guide that person along the way.
Yes, I think so. And for us, we need to reach out and have resources.
Mm.
Support plus resources are your life raft. And your resources can be your friends, can be a therapist, can be, can be a walk in the park. I mean, there are lots of ways to get, energy in rather than staying in the negative world.
Interesting. So, coronaphobia is something I think we're gonna be seeing more of and hearing more of, and gosh, my heart really goes out to people that are in that space right now, and they don't know how to, get back into society or how to feel safe, being, in the workplace or.
Well, then we need to beef up our mental health programs.
Yeah.
We need to get out there and train people and how to pivot their thoughts. Because if they were functioning in early March, there's no reason that they can't function now.
Mm-hmm.
Other than their thoughts have taken over.
Yeah.
That's the only thing. I mean, yes, the world is a little bit more dangerous out there. I get it. But that's why, we should be wearing masks and we should be, doing social distancing, all the things we know to do. But to crater our world because of that is not the response we want. We want to be able to work through our fears, to learn how to pivot, to predict a positive outcome rather than a negative outcome, to catch ourselves in these negative thoughts, to learn how to deal with our feelings, deal with them. Okay, feel, deal, heal. And that's your way out. And if you're really having a horrible time, call and get on some anti-anxiety medicine.
And surround yourself with very positive people.
Yes. And keep reaching out. Keep the hope.
Not to isolate yourself would be very important, I'd imagine.
That's your support system. That's your reason. But the most incredible medicine of all is hope. Predict a good future. See yourself 6 months from now doing whatever you want to do with the people you want to do it with, happy, content, in your home, in wherever you want to be, and just surround yourself with that vision.
Visualization is very important, Pat. I think it's as you say, it's the only way to think yourself through the negative thinking process.
Exactly. And that's what I'm saying. Predict a positive future.
And laughter. And don't forget laughter, Pat. That's really important.
It is indeed. It is indeed, Arlene. That's right. And that's where connecting with friends. I have one friend in California. And when I call her, she and I just laugh. I mean, in spite of everything, we just make each other laugh. And it's such a tonic, it's such good stuff, and you can get on YouTube, watch Robin Williams, watch somebody.
Totally.
McIntyre, I love him. He's adorable.
Michael McIntyre. Yeah, totally. Laughter is very important. I think especially after a stressful week, separate to phobias and Coronaphobia and all those things. I just think for everyone in general, if you've had a very, very tough week and you've hit Friday, you need a good laugh. And I think that's a real kind of it's a natural way to kind of, tackle your feelings of stress, and it's good stress buster.
It is indeed. It is indeed. And you know what? Children. I mean, Jim and I have 5 little darling Irish grandchildren here, and they're adorable. They get on FaceTime and they send us stuff, and they're very sweet. So give yourself the ability to be with and take in things you love. After children, I love listening to music when I'm doing housework or however little I'm doing.
Yeah.
So I'll put on a musical. I'm a musical fan, and I'll clean to West Side Story or Hamilton or any of the great musicals, and that lifts my spirits. So find out what it is other than something like alcohol or sugar, and lift your spirits with it.
Yeah, for sure. And there's so many things you can do in the home. Like decluttering your home is very rewarding, and that almost declutters your mind, if not physically your home.
Well, it does. It does. And you feel better. You feel like you lost weight. I do when I declutter.
It's such a good thing to do. And you just feel so proud of yourself that you've tackled that drawer in the corner.
Well, see, that's it. There's the pat on the back. There's the girl, hey, I feel that.
And it's quite addictive. So if you can tackle one drawer, you can tackle the next, and you'll probably do more than you expect once you get on that kind of that vibration, where you're in the zone, and you have to be in the mood nearly to clean in that way or to really declutter. I think you just got to click into it.
Yes. I haven't seen that Mary Kondo Netflix video. Have you?
I haven't. It's on my list. I definitely want to catch that.
Yeah. She says something. I think there's one thing I do remember. She says something about bless it or thank whatever it is for however it functioned for you, and then let it go.
Yeah. It's easier said than done, though. But I get what she's saying.
Yeah, it is easier said than done.
If it has sentimental value, it's kind of hard to part with certain things. But
well, I always think I'm gonna get back to that size.
That's true. If we're talking about clothes,
clothes. I have a horrible time with clothes. I put them in a bag and then I'll go take them out.
Oh, I know. Isn't that the worst? Or have you ever given a bag of clothes to a friend and then they open the bag and to have a look at what maybe, you're passing on, and then you're looking at it and you're thinking, gosh, I shouldn't have given that away.
I know. I want it back. Give it back.
Yeah. Pat, can I ask you something? Sheryl Sandberg recently was in the news, as I'm sure you probably caught the news, where she was saying that there's like a double shift for women at the moment during the pandemic, especially in the workplace, and especially working moms, and they're finding it really difficult to balance the two. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's I can't imagine the stress I would be feeling being a mother at home with my children who are now on their laptops doing their schoolwork. I mean, we have, like I said, Jim has 2 daughters here. Both of them are experiencing that to some degree. And I think that those women, and if you were one of them, needs to really strategize some loving interventions for themselves. Like, what is it that would give you a lift, a kiss, at the end of the day, that you've just gotten through the day. Because the complexity of dealing with the emotions of your children and your work, and when do I do what, and how do I manage all this? And some people get it all organized and they're great, but there is no perfect,
Mm-hmm.
Things happen, life happens. And then how do you handle that? And how stressed out do you get by that? Some people, Jim's daughter, Liz, it's a benefit. She loves it. She can do her job and be there with the kids, and they have different rooms and everything. And she loves it. So there are some benefits we're going to see from this long distance web-based training. Working.
Mm-hmm.
For most people, it's pretty annoying,
Yeah, it's tough. It's a big learning curve. But like you said earlier, everyone has to learn to adapt as best they can.
Well, it gives people options that they didn't have. Maybe in your, Arlene, you're finding, I don't know, but you may be finding ways that being at home is really helping you.
Oh, yeah, totally. Big time. Like, I have to say, the pandemic is definitely, this time has made me see things differently for sure.
Well, see, that's the thing. That's the great gift. And there's always gift in chaos. There's always gifts. And one of the gifts is that people have been home long enough to hopefully appreciate their home and to want to redecorate and see where they need to do that, but also to reassess, where do I want to live my life? Because I know that the company that Liz works for, had been talking about having people do work at home, but hadn't gotten there. They hadn't invested in laptops and blah, 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 and all that kind of stuff. Then they had to. And because they had to, it's given her a new way of working, making money, and being at home, and then, being there with her kids.
Yeah.
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 There are some benefits.
Yeah, it's win-win for her. That's great. No, definitely, for sure. And Pat, what have you learned about yourself during the pandemic?
I've learned that I really like coffee cake.
I love that answer. Oh, God, that's so funny.
Oh, jeez. Oh,
Excellent.
I don't know. To be honest, I'm not sure. Here's the thing about my life. I am, I'm semi-retired. I'm not having to go to. I don't have to go to office. I don't have to do anything I don't want to do, and I do coaching and counseling on the phone anyway. So being at home is not a vast change for me. Okay. So it's more the restriction that has been hard for me, because Jim and I have been at home with each other for years, but we love going out for lunch or dinner, and truly the thing I've learned is that I really lack cooking skills. I've learned that too, because we can't go out for lunch or dinner anymore.
Right. Interesting. Yeah.
And that for us has been the biggest hit, and not seeing friends and hugging the grandchildren and stuff like that. But to be serious, what have I learned? I've learned that it's a daily process, and the AA says, one day at a time. I really think it is one day at a time. And there are days when I am down and unhappy with the confinement and the lockdown and everything. And then there are other days I can pivot. So I guess part of what I've learned is I've learned the resiliency isn't about being perfect and up all the time. That's not possible. That's somewhat inhuman to demand that of yourself. It's the resiliency is the ability to bounce back after you've had an upset, whatever that upset is. If it's emotional, if it's physical, if it's health, if it's, the pandemic, it's the ability to bounce back and learn that I'm more resilient than I thought I was.
That's great. And what advice, Pat, would you give to your younger self looking back over your career?
Make more money. I don't know. I'm going to give to my younger self. That's a tough one. I'm not sure. Probably be less stressed about it. I think, everybody, don't get so worked up. It's all going to work out in time.
Yeah.
Though, if you said that to me at the time that I was all stressed out, I wouldn't have heard it very well. But looking back, yeah, it all works out. And things that you think are awful may indeed be the best thing that ever happened to you. That's one thing I do think age gives you a perspective of. So although I thought getting divorced was the worst thing that could have happened, then I, over a period of time, I put myself back together, and then I met Jim, and that was the best thing that could have happened.
There you go.
You have to bless every step of the process. Joseph Campbell wrote a great book called The Hero with 1,000 Faces. And it's a book about the hero's journey. And we're all heroes of our own life, heroes and heroines of our own journey. And the hero's journey in mythology, in really every Marvel comic book, every, everything you see of Thor or, Spider-Man, is that the hero starts out, everything's kind of going okay, things are rocking along, and then they hit a crisis, some kind of crisis for a while. And then they have to struggle, and they have to find new parts of themselves, new resilient parts to fight back, to come back. And in that comeback, they have now climbed the mountain, and they've now become the hero of their own journey. So it's not only the parts that are great, it's the parts that aren't so great that you negotiate and make part of your journey, and that you feel good about that as you look back and you bless the whole journey. So I think that's really how I see it these days.
I see it that way too. I agree with you. I think things all happen for a reason, and whatever that reason is, you just have to accept that kind of there's a bigger plan, and things will fall into place.
Right. Well, and that is an optimistic viewpoint for sure. And so that the coronavirus viewed from that perspective is a global hitting the bottom. And then how we come back up that mountain, after we've hit the ravine, is about our own resiliency and our own ability to choose, to focus on the positive, to be grateful, to keep in mind what's really important, home, family, and to assess, how do I want to live? How do I want to do this journey? What's my next step that makes good sense to me? So I think it's all that, and I think that we have the right and the ability to create even better for ourselves, to deserve more. And that's the theme of the book, Stop Self-Sabotage. So we sabotage ourselves, in that we need to learn how to up our deserve level and how to deserve more. Well, this is we didn't do this to ourselves, of course, coronavirus, but this is a time for reassessment, for home improvement, both mental and physical, and decorative.
Yeah, definitely. Feel, deal, and heal. I love that.
Feel, deal, and heal. That's it.
That is it. I'm going to honestly say that to everyone I speak to today and over the next week. Feel, deal, and heal.
You may have to explain what that means. You know.
I will. Don't you worry. Now, Pat, I'm going to ask you something completely separate. It's called a quick fire round of questions. It's just one or the other. So Are you ready?
I am.
Tea or coffee?
Coffee.
Bath or shower?
Shower.
Books or podcasts?
Books.
Text or talk?
Talk.
Morning or night person?
Night.
Public speaking or one-on-one?
Both.
Taxi or walk?
Taxi.
Europe or the USA?
Both.
Eat in or eat out?
Eat out, for goodness sake.
News or Netflix?
Netflix.
Dublin or Dallas?
Oh, gosh. Well, both. But now I live in California. So,
okay.
Our whole situation was Dublin in the summer, California in the winter.
Oh, fabulous.
Nice way to do it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Boris Johnson or Donald Trump?
Well, I'd have to go Boris.
And my last question is 2020 or 2021?
Oh, gosh. I think that things will be settled by 2021. I'd go there.
Good. Let's do 2021. So you're always so interesting, Pat, to talk to. I can't tell you how grateful I am that you've taken the time to chat with me today.
Thank you. I'm delighted. It's been the highlight of my day, for sure.
You have such an incredible career, and you're always so interesting, and so I'm very grateful today. Back to gratefulness that you've taken the time to speak with me today. So thank you.
My real pleasure. Really, let's do it again.
Let's do it again. And when we're all completely out of lockdown, we'll meet for a glass of wine.
Yay! Yay!
And a coffee cake.
Yay!
Thank you, Pat. And I'm sending you and Jim a big giant hug. And
find yourselves.
And take
Same
care.
to you and your beautiful baby.
Thank you, Pat. Take care.
Bye-bye.